All right, wait. What road are we on?
This is Route 130 in Stratford, Connecticut, or at least according to the GPS.
Right, okay. Okay, so it looks like we're going to make this next left.
Up there?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, we're turning on to Elm Street.
Right. We're heading up here just a little ways, less than a quarter of a mile.
This is a pretty tree-lined street where a stone's throw away from the Housatonic River spills into the Long Island Sound. There's some nice houses here.
Yep.
Lawns are well kept. I mean, it looks like a really nice neighborhood.
Yeah, no doubt it is. Okay, hey, our destination is coming up, but I don't really see a place to pull over.
Well, we can park across the street in that cul-de-sac.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, right over there is what we're looking for.
Which house?
That's the thing. The house we're looking for isn't here anymore.
Oh.
But that's where it was. The Phelps Mansion, a home so profoundly haunted, it made the news. Hey there, I'm Jeff Belanger.
And I'm Ray Auger. Welcome to episode 339 of the New England Legends podcast. Thanks for joining us on our mission to chronicle every legend in New England, one story at a time. We're always on the hunt for ghosts, monsters, aliens, roadside oddities, and all the other wicked, strange things that make New England like no other place. If you've got a story lead for us, please reach out to us anytime through our website. We get most of our story leads from you.
We'll go searching for the haunted Phelps Mansion right after this quick word from our sponsor.
Okay, Jeff, I get that the Phelps Mansion isn't here on Elm Street in Stratford anymore.
No, it was torn down in 1974 to make room for this beautiful neighborhood that we see here today. But thankfully, we can time travel and get the scoop and see the place.
Right. Time and space are no challenge for us.
Not at all.
But first, a little more background on Stratford, Connecticut. This town goes way back, all the way to the year 1639 during the Great Migration, when some settlers first put down roots at Max Harbor on the banks of the Housatonic River. The town is named after Stratford upon Avon in England, where Shakespeare's from.
Oh, I've been to the one in England too. Hey, Shakespeare was a writer, just like me.
Right. Just like you. Given its coastal location, Stratford's early industries were farming and fishing. But eventually, in 1939, Igor Sikorsky built the first successful commercial helicopter right here in town. Sikorsky is now the town's biggest employer.
And Sikorsky's most famous helicopter is, of course, Marine One, used by the presidents of the United States.
But we're not here to look for helicopters, Jeff.
No. We're here to look for ghosts. So let's head back to the year 1850 and see the Phelps Mansion.
It's Sunday, March 10th, 1850, here in Stratford, Connecticut. The Reverend Eliakim Phelps and his family are heading off to church.
So a little more background on Reverend Phelps. He arrived in Stratford about 3 years ago. He's a widower with grown children who recently remarried a younger woman with 3 young children of her own. So he's looking for a home big enough to accommodate his growing family. That's when he finds this stately mansion on Elm Street.
The house is big.
Yeah.
It's 2.5 stories tall with a fancy portico and columns in the front. It's painted white and looks every bit the mansion. Reverend Phelps purchased the home from a former sea captain named George Dowell. This is Phelps Castle. The 60-year-old is a man of wealth and taste, a retired Presbyterian minister with a fine home and gorgeous views of the water.
With church services ended for the day, Reverend Phelps and his family walk back to their home on Elm Street. As Reverend Phelps approaches the door, he notices something peculiar.
Well, look at that. The front door is open a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a strip of black fabric stuck to the doorknob.
So the family's concerned. I mean, could a burglar have broken in while everyone was at church? Let's look inside. Ooh,
Oh, look at that.
look at that.
Wow. The furniture and everything else seems like it was ransacked. Chairs are toppled over, drawers pulled out of desks. This looks like a robbery for sure.
Yeah, but look, Reverend Phelps and his wife can't seem to find anything missing.
Yeah, well, it's a mess, but nothing damaged. And so far, nothing seems stolen.
Could this be a weird prank, maybe?
Maybe. Well, let's go look upstairs. Well, everything seems okay in this room.
Yeah, this one too. Seems normal to me.
Here, too.
Maybe whoever did this just didn't come upstairs.
Oh, my God.
What?
Look in here.
Oh my God. Ray, I'm really freaked out right now.
I've never seen anything like this.
Me neither.
There's 8 small human-like figures in a kneeling position on the floor. The figures are made out of the family's clothes. Their pants and shirts and vests and other garments that have been twisted and folded to the shape of people.
And look on the floor. In front of each figure is an open Bible.
Reverend Phelps and his family looked as stunned as we are.
Should we help him take down these figures?
I don't think so, Jeff. Reverend Phelps is pointing to the door. I think he wants us to leave.
Reverend Phelps just locked the bedroom door and he slipped the key into his pocket. Ray, something really weird is going on here.
I agree. Let's head downstairs and help them clean up.
It's evening, and everyone in the Phelps family is still a little shaken up. But no one seems to be... Ray.
Yeah. I see it. Yeah. Their 11-year-old son is... He's levitating.
He's floating across the room. It's like someone lift him up.
Okay. He's down on the floor again.
I have no idea what just happened, but something very strange is afoot here in Stratford. And the poor boy, he's white as a sheet.
It's Monday. Reverend Phelps decides to check on the figures locked in the upstairs bedroom. Look at that!
The figures have been moved a little bit.
Wow.
I mean, there's some clothes missing from before, but no one's been in here. Reverend Phelps has had the key the entire time.
As each day passes, Reverend Phelps checks on the figures in the locked room. And each day, they move slightly. Clothes have been swapped out, or some other nuanced difference. The entire family is on edge. Thankfully, Reverend Mitchell is coming over this evening to talk about his recent trip to Europe. It's just the thing the family needs to get their mind off the strange activity in their home.
The weather in London was rainy, but that's no surprise. It rains there quite a bit.
Hey, Ray, look over there.
Yeah, Reverend Phelps' 11-year-old son is fidgeting in his chair. He was pretty still before. Oh, it's happening again. Something is pushing the kid.
Look at his pants. They've been shredded, almost like with scissors, and those shreds are tied to the chair he's sitting on.
The chair is being dragged by some invisible force, and the kid can't get up.
Why is this kid being targeted? He was just sitting there listening to Reverend Mitchell.
I am really uncomfortable in this house. What was that?
Look, over by the window on the floor.
What is that?
I think it's a beet.
It is a beet. Why would a vegetable drop from the window?
I guess this must be some kind of an apport, a physical object materializing out of nowhere. And look at the beet, Ray.
There's some kind of symbols carved into the beet. I don't recognize it as any kind of writing. It looks almost like hieroglyphics. Wow, what was that?
A shingle. Look, over there on the floor. It's like one of the roof shingles. It just flew across the room and landed over there.
Wow, check it out. There's more of these strange symbols drawn on the shingles, too.
By now, Reverend Phelps believes either his family or his house is bewitched.
Maybe it's both.
In the coming days, more strange happenings occur at the mansion. At one point, Reverend Phelps donned his hat and was preparing to walk out the front door when something he couldn't see whisked the hat from his head and carried it up the stairs to the top floor.
Then there was that time the family was sitting down in the parlor when something lifted the dining room table and dropped it 3 times in a row. The fall was loud enough to shake the entire house.
Word is spreading about this haunted home. The Phelps family is scared, and others in town are getting curious. It's Friday, March 16th, when the editor of the Derby Journal asks to spend the night to see if he can witness this phenomenon for himself. Reverend Phelps agrees. The editor brings over 3 other gentlemen from neighboring towns to witness with him. As the group of visitors are ascending the stairs for the night, they hear strange knocks on the walls, and a bottle appears on the stairs in front of them.
The men followed the sounds of the knocks to the headboard in one of the bed chambers. That's when something odd happens. A hairbrush was just thrown at them and landed at their feet.
There's another one.
We'll let the editor describe the rest.
After these brushes had been thrown, and every effort made on our part to detect the source from whence they came, we proposed to our companion to go out of the room and in our stocking feet to listen at the hall door and see if we could not hear a rustling of the bedclothes or some trivial circumstance whereby we could fasten the trick on the young lady. Just as we turned our backs, down came another brush. Soon after, a large comb fell near the lady's head. A piece of soap was found on the floor, and loud rappings heard. We picked up the brushes and put them in our pocket and took our place near the door in the hall, our friend being at this time on the garret stairs, with his eyes skinned attentively listening to the sounds. The rappings now were very loud and boisterous, so much so that two gentlemen who came with us, sleeping in a room 30 feet distant, were aroused and came to where we were. Here, then, were 4 individuals with sound minds listening to the most horrible rappings ever heard, racking their brains to ascertain from whence they emanated.
Something just slammed against the bedroom door. Let's get inside, quick.
Oh, the girl's shaken up. She claims something just struck her in the face.
Her cheek, look at it. It looks red, too.
And on the floor, look over there. There's a broken pitcher. Check it out. It was thrown against the door with enough force to dent the wood in the door and break the pitcher.
The editor of the Derby Journal leaves with his guess and publishes his findings. In short, he has no idea what to make of what's happening inside the Phelps mansion, but he can't rule out some supernatural force.
As you can imagine, the more the word spreads, the more newspapers who print articles like this, the more others want to see the spirit activity for themselves. Many skeptics believe they can figure it out if they can just get inside.
More reporters come, and the Phelps family tells their story again, and again, and again. It's getting exhausting.
Reverend Phelps is getting tired of proving this high strangeness to everyone who questions him. And of course, some people who've never been inside his home are now calling him a liar, a fraud. They don't believe in ghosts, and therefore, Reverend Phelps must be lying.
I mean, that's hardly fair.
No, it's not, but it's how it is. Even when multiple reporters and editors visit the home and write that they see no fraud here. Plus, Reverend Phelps isn't profiting from these events in any way. Still, some people won't believe it and question the honor and integrity of Reverend Phelps. And pretty soon, the good Reverend refuses to talk about the supernatural occurrences any longer, and the press moves on. And that brings us back to today.
Though no cause of the haunting activity was ever discovered, some speculate that maybe the house was haunted by a witch who was hanged nearby the property before the house was built, or that maybe 2 of the Phelps children had fallen under some kind of possession.
Well, either way, about 9 months after the supernatural events began in their home, the family moved to Philadelphia for the winter. When they returned to their Stratford mansion the following spring, the events allegedly stopped, and they weren't tormented again, or at least they never spoke of it.
Most of what we know about the details of this story came from the April 27, 1850 Hartford Courant newspaper. The article included the write-ups from a few of the local newspapers that initially covered the haunting.
I love how the paper covered this story. Just the facts. You can draw your own conclusions. But what isn't fair is to judge another person or family's experiences, especially when you weren't there.
Well, as we said earlier, the Phelps mansion was torn down in 1974 to make way for this new neighborhood. And according to the Phelps family, they had no problems in the house after 1851.
But there were a few months there where a family's nightmare happening here on Elm Street captivated not just Stratford, but eventually the entire state as word spread. Though the idea of a haunted home scares us, it also has a way of drawing us in the hopes that we might witness something that validates that primal gut feeling and the sincere hope we have that somehow we go on after death.
And that takes us to After the Legend, where we take a deeper dive into this week's story and sometimes veer off course.
After the Legend's brought to you by our Patreon patrons. This is our inner circle. They get all the episodes ad-free, early, and all the news, plus bonus episodes and content that no one else gets to hear. It's just $3 per month, and it helps us a lot in our mission to bring you 2 stories each week. We'd love to have your support too. Just head over to patreon.com/New England Legends to sign up. To see some historic photos of the Phelps Mansion, click on the link in our episode description, head to our website, and click on episode 339. So,
I think we've seen this movie before.
Yeah, no, right? Yeah. The Lindley Street haunting in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Yep.
Very similar, where the story goes that eventually the family said we made the whole thing up. And then later on, Ed and Lorraine Warren would say that the police chief told them to say that because otherwise the nightmare wasn't going to end, that the streets were too crowded. You couldn't drive by.
Oh, yeah.
It was an absolute spectacle problem. And the other thing too, and this was 1850, right? So think about this. your integrity is and your word is being questioned again and again. You're a reverend. You live in a mansion. You're well-to-do. You're prominent. All this other stuff. And so, fine, invite the reporters in, and then they see some weird stuff.
Right.
And so you invited more reporters. And the problem is there are people that just cannot believe in this stuff. They're incapable. I'm a skeptic to my core. I need to come in your house.
Right.
Fine, I'll let you in. But then there's 100 more behind you that are like, well, you couldn't figure it out, but I could because I'm the smartest one in the room.
Right.
And when does it end? At what point do I stop allowing people? I'm sick of it. I'm sick of telling the same story over and over. I can't explain it. I don't know why. And no, you don't get to come in anymore.
And there's no end game for the Reverend here.
No.
Because if he had solved it and he had said,
Right.
the ghosts are gone.
Right.
I got rid of him, excommunicated the ghosts from the house by the power of the Lord. Now you've got followers like, oh, look what he did. He's a powerful religious man.
Yeah.
But he had no
Nope.
no answers.
Nothing to gain.
I didn't fix the situation. Just haunted. So what's the end game if he is lying?
Well, right, and then the other thing too is, so if let's say there's a line of 100 skeptics and you allow in the first 37, and you're like, I'm done. I've told the same thing to every person. Like, I'm done.
They've all seen it, perhaps.
Right. Number 38 goes, you're a liar because you won't let me in.
Right.
Now I know
yeah.
you're lying.
And everyone's lying. The 37 before.
38, 39, and 40 are like, yep, he's a liar. He won't let us in. And you're like, no, this is my house. I'm sick of like strangers coming in and telling me I'm a liar.
And if you're a sensitive person, you're going to let 38, 39, and 40 in.
Well,
because
right.
you want,
Yeah.
you want closure.
Right.
You want them to know.
Right. Or please figure it out. That'd be great.
Or that too, yeah.
Let us know. Like, oh, it was a draft. I don't, like that levitated my kid and tied his
Slap
pants.
my kid in the face. Sure.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that's so frustrating. And I can understand why people say, nope, nothing happens here anymore. So they claimed when they came back from Philadelphia, it had stopped. Like that was the thing. They got out of the house and it ended. And maybe it did. That's totally
Or
possible.
they decided we need some peace and quiet if
Yeah.
we're going to go back home. So let's not tell anybody this is still happening.
Right. We don't talk about this as a
Yeah.
family because it's just a nightmare. There's people waiting to come in, strangers at all hours.
Right.
And the thing is that happens today. I mean, having worked in this a long
Yeah.
time, go by the Conjuring House in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
People knock on that door at all hours. Now, they are cashing in, right? That is a haunted bed and breakfast. You can stay there. You can look for ghosts. You can do all kinds of things.
But you talked about a woman that lived there that wanted nothing to do with the lore.
Right. Before, that was, so when the movie came out, there was a family that had lived there for years and years and years, decades, and claimed it was haunted. And that's her word telling me in person, but also they were on the show Ghost Hunters. Nothing to do with the Perrin family and all the
Yeah.
other stuff related to Conjuring, but she was on the show Ghost Hunters because it's like a 300-year-old house and they seemed to have a ghost or two. But then once the movie came out, it was a nightmare because internet very quickly was like, this is the house it's based on. Here's the address.
Sure.
And I remember her telling me stories. When the movie came out, the movie made a lot of money. The Warrens got money. The Perrin family got money. The woman that owns the house, they got the family. They had nothing, right? Because
They got trespassers. That's about it.
they had a huge problem that was not there before the movie came out. And I remember her telling me, and by this time, she and her husband, I believe, were in their 70s. And she's like, it was 10 o'clock at night and it was dark and we're watching TV and these flashes of light are going off all through the room. And we're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Someone was at the window with a camera.
Oh, no.
Clicking pictures right up to the glass. Jeez. 10 o'clock at night. And imagine that's your parents or your grandparents or whatever. You're just like, whoa, that's not okay.
And how often can you call the cops?
Well,
Really?
right. And they can't just camp out there, you
Right.
know? And so you go outside. What the hell are you doing? Oh, I heard your house is on it.
So I thought I'd trespass
Yeah.
and shoot pictures through your window, invading your privacy.
This isn't okay. Right? You know what I mean?
There was a movie. I figured this was open.
They almost had to sell that house.
Yeah.
They almost had to. And now that it's an attraction, like, they got cameras everywhere. They got, security and so on. So they're wired for it now, you know, but my goodness, you wouldn't want to raise your family there.
No, absolutely not.
Even if you don't believe in ghosts, like you got a nightmare outside with regular people. And it would have been the same thing with the Phelps family in the 1850s. Now, here's the next big question. It's Elm Street. It's a very pretty street, as we saw. It's very nice houses and so on.
I think the question is, did you almost call this a nightmare in Elm Street?
It's hard to resist, isn't it?
That's the question.
It's hard to resist. But so now my question is, we know the old address, and I'm not going to say it. You can look it up if you're really interested. You can find it. It's not hard to find. And that address would correspond with probably multiple properties today, right? Split between two houses or whatever. Are are those houses haunted?
Maybe,
You know
right?
what I mean?
Oh, we learned that in Poltergeist,
Yeah.
right?
You're just like,
It wasn't the house, it was what was buried underneath.
Right. So 1974 was when the house was torn. The Phelps mansion was torn down. So these houses would be after 74. Judging from their appearance, probably not long after, you know. They're very nice, good looking houses. And so are they haunted? If they are, please call us. And we could start a whole new nightmare on Elm Street just for you.
Well, please hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts because it's free. We can't accomplish our mission of chronicling every legend in New England without your help. Subscribing, posting a review, telling others about us, it's a huge help in growing our community. We can't do it alone. So, thanks for your support and kind words. You should also join the New England Legends Facebook group and download our free New England Legends app in your app store. It's got an interactive map in it, so you can go check out all of these stories for yourself.
Thank you to John Bashford and Michael Legge for lending their voice acting talents this week. We'd like to thank our sponsors and our Patreon patrons, and our theme music is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember,
The bizarre is closer than you think.